structure. I think you can also see the course structure in the G Drive link, and I'll share and present the course structure once more before you, so that you can have an idea about what are the topics that I'll be covering this semester, and how they're interlinked to each other, and why the thrust would be on these topics rather than the others. So, and some of these topics are really very broad based, so they can be considered as umbrella topics or umbrella domains, where we can have plenty of discussions about what are the various trends and trajectories of these particular domains or subdomains within environmental humanities. So I will come to that. But before that, I think yesterday Kaushiki I think to an extent enabled us to kind of concentrate on this on the name of this course, on the two terms, very significant terminologies that are there and which combine to make environmental humanities. So environment and humanities. So what is environment in environmental humanities, and what is humanities in environmental humanities, and what is the interconnection between the two? So this is also something which we would like to take up today. So today's class to consider it as a overview introductory class, but an overview class mainly kind of emphasizing on the subject, right? So before that, I would just show you a picture, a very common picture. So let me just find it out. Um, mm, just 1 second. Yes. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen. So can you see this picture?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All right. Okay. So may I ask you, so may I give like 5 to 7 minutes to you and ask you to write a small paragraph, or maybe three, four bullets, uh, bullet points, or three, four sentences, or a small paragraph on what do you see here? I just want you to write a very small, a brief explanation of what is visible in the screen. So it is 8:11 now. So maybe like 8:17. So this time till like 8:17, and then I'll randomly ask you to read out like what you had written. Is that fine? Hmm?
Yes,
Ready?
ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, please start. So it's 8:11. I'll just keep the picture on, and at 8:17, I'll ask you to just read out and explain what you have written. Yeah. So time starts now. All right. So you are done, all of you. So Dhruv, are you there? Dhruv Parmar,
Yes, ma'am.
have you written?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to read out?
Um, in that picture, what I can see is that there is a man who's probably boating in either most likely river,
Mhm.
and it's not for like that mass fishing, such as there were no nets or something, but maybe he was traveling across the river sides. That's all I can say from that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Dhruv. Okay. So who else would like to say something? So all of you have more or less have Dhruv's idea to share, or do you have any additional idea on this?
Ma'am, like in the picture, I can see some barrels on the boat. So probably he was transporting some kind of goods or something across one end to another end of a water body, probably.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
And the water is quite calm because we can clearly see the ripples which are made by his oars and the boat.
Again, and be a bit louder.
Ma'am, the water is quite tranquil and calm because we can clearly see the ripples made by the boat and the oars.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
And ma'am, it's also clearly shown that maybe he's reaching to his destination, or maybe just he uh, depart from that
Okay.
person.
He has departed and he's trying to reach the
Like,
destination.
ma'am, I think he's self-employed. Like he might be a farmer and transporting the goods to market, etc. Like I think like he's driving the boat by himself. Nobody else is sitting with him. So he might own the boat, and I think he lives in rural area near a river.
Okay.
So this can be the thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for the thick description. So Sahu wanted to say something. Sahu and Pranav.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Maybe I think he is traveling too long, so in that barrels there will be some food.
Again,
Yeah.
again. I think you can be a bit louder, all of you. My speaker is not in its very good shape today. But yeah, so can you be a bit louder, Shoham?
Yeah, like adding to these points, like I
Mm-hmm.
need to point out only a minute thing that the person is an old man, like probably in his 50s, like 60s maybe.
Hmm. Okay, he's old. Yes. And Shahu, you wanted to say something? Shahu and Pranav?
Yeah, I wanted to say that maybe he is traveling. He will travel too long, so in that barrel there will be some food.
Food. Okay.
Ma'am, I already mentioned my point about the water being calm and all.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay.
Also, ma'am, the man seems to be half bald, but he was well dressed.
He seems to be half,
Bald.
half bald but well dressed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, can I say something?
Yes, please.
A man is rowing a boat. He is a
Mm-hmm.
fisherman. He
Hmm.
has to work very hard to earn his living.
Hmm.
He is very strong because rowing requires physical strength.
Right.
The water is very polluted.
How do you know that?
Ma'am, because the black color is there in the painting, in the drawing. The air appears to be clean though, and the
Okay.
man is not wearing a mask.
Acha. So maybe this was during pre-corona times, no? Or maybe yeah, in the rural landscapes, or places which are not very metropolitan, though like corona now has entered everywhere, but still, like if you go to for example, one of my friend is now in Majuli is the largest river island in the world. It is in it is in the middle of the Brahmaputra river in Assam. So there is not much worries about corona and things like that. So often fishermen do not wear masks, or that is not very required. Same thing in Sundarbans, though again the disease is spread a lot, but that much of reflection is not very evident. Yeah, but you have observed a whole lot of things those are very important and minute and significant things for sure. So if now, you want to say anything, Mihir?
No, ma'am, I think everyone has covered most of what
Covered?
I would like to say.
Okay. So now if I just ask you to, type in the chat box one sentence of what you see in this picture, because all of you had given, had kind of described what you see. So, and it's like, because I asked you to write a paragraph and I asked you to observe it very well and, then write the paragraph. So, and all of you had observed very well and you had, of course, let me know your points. So now if I ask you to just write one sentence, just one sentence, one English sentence of what you see in that picture. So can you just very quickly type it in the chat box? One sentence, in one sentence. Old man working hard, and what you see in the picture. Because for example, you have to, when I'm asking to write, when I'm asking to write this sentence, you have to keep in mind that someone, you are actually writing this sentence for a group of people or a particular person who has not seen the picture, who has not been exposed to the picture, but you have to write one full line, full sentence, through which the person or the group of people would be able to exactly understand what the picture conveys. Okay, rowing across a lake along a long day. Okay. Some source of water. Manual wood made small boat with his full power in water. Person, man in his middle ages, in a boat with barrels packed and is rowing in a river to somewhere. Hard immunity. All right. Okay. All right. So if I not see most of the sentences and anyone, like for example, I would also, if I'm asked to write a sentence from the picture, I would also write the same thing. So an old man rowing a boat on a river or some sorts of water, we're not very sure whether lake or water, to reach a particular destination. He has to finally reach somewhere, right? Yeah. Yes. Right. So all of us, we are conveying the more or less same thing, and some of you are kind of adding more detailed, what we call thick description, quote unquote, in environmental sociology. So, but the ultimate statement is like an old man rowing a boat on a river or some source of water. It's not very clear from the picture whether it is, most probably it's a river, but it can also be a lake. So rowing a boat on a river to reach a particular destination. Now, if I ask you to go by simple English grammar techniques, so you'll be quite surprised with me that what is actually going on in this environmental humanities class, but it's fun. So if I ask you, all of us know basic English grammar, right? So if I ask you for some few minutes, imagine me as your English teacher. So tell me that what is the subject, in this sentence or statement? What is the subject? An old man rowing a boat on a river to reach a particular destination. What is the subject? You can unmute and also you just tell me. What is the subject? Old man. Old man is the subject. All of you agree?
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, is there any other subject in this in this sentence, or only one subject? Only one subject? Old man rowing a boat on a river to reach a destination. Okay, only one subject or other subjects are there? Only one? Okay. Only one. So, do you also see objects? Of course, when the subject is there, there should be an object or more than one object. Do you see any
Boat.
object? Boat.
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 River.
River. Two objects you can see. Boat and river. Boat and river are the objects. Okay. And why boat and rivers are objects and why the old man is a subject? Explain the law. Simple, like English grammar law. What is a subject in a sentence? Or who is a subject in a sentence? Just unmute.
Ma'am, the doer of the work becomes a subject, so he's actually rowing the boat.
Right.
So the man is a subject.
Okay, so the person or the thing which is actually performing the action, right? And
Yes,
okay. And what is an object? Why is
On
the
which
boat
the-
and the river objects in this sentence?
on which the action is being done. So that stands out the object.
Right. So on which the action is done, on which the action is enacted. Right. So according to the law of English grammar, the man is this, or the old man is the subject, and the river and this boat, they are objects. But environmental humanities, if you do like, for example, if you are taught by environmental humanities instructors, they would absolutely reject this proposition which we had learned during our childhood, and which our English teacher would be telling us that these are the laws, these are the norms through which subject and object formation and identification actually take place. So, and also there is logic that subject is the person who performs or who does the action, who is the most powerful in a sentence. And objects are those where actions are actually enacted. So in this case, we can clearly see that boat and river, they are the objects. Now, for example, if you again concentrate on the picture, so for example, this old man, if we consider him as the subject, it means that he has the entire power, right? He has the power, he has the agency. Most importantly, agency is the right word. So the old man has the agency to perform the action, and his agency finally would lead him to reach the destination, and that is why he can be considered as the subject, right? That is the logic. Is it do you absolutely agree? If not, you can just just unmute and counter me. So why is the old man subject as per English grammar? Because he has the agency, right? And if he has the agency, he has activated his agency to perform the task, and it is up to him, it is up to his ability to ultimately perform the final task. He will be performing the final task, so it is finally up to his ability and up to his decision making, up to all other things surrounding him, that would ultimately lead him to complete or accomplish the final goal or the final agenda, right? Isn't it so? That is how subjects are identified, right? Do you agree, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Agree or disagree?
Agree, ma'am.
Agree? Okay. Okay. But now, do you think that the old man in the picture, for example, again, we are concentrating on the picture. Do you think that the old man has the agency or has the absolute agency? Because subject has to have absolute agencies. So do you think that the old man actually has an absolute agency to perform the action? Do you think that it is on the decision making, on the action, on the agency, on the responsibility, on the power of the old man that reaching the destination is absolutely connected with?
or there are other
The river
factors?
can decide.
Aditya?
The river can decide if there is a storm or something.
Yes, so the river can also decide. So how can the river decide? Because the river is an inanimate object, right?
Like there is a storm or some sort of the waves are such that it becomes absolutely impossible for the man to row in the direction he wishes to.
Okay, so then the direction and several other things, and most importantly, if there is any turbulence, if there is a storm, if anything else happens in the middle of the river, to a great extent, that will also determine like how he has to. Maybe he will finally reach the destination, but maybe there can be a change of direction. And we can see that after a particular point of time, maybe due to that unusual or unexpected circumstance, the decision of or the capacity of the subject may change. And in this case, the capacity of the subject right now, so the old man is the subject we're saying, so the capacity of the subject will actually be determined and influenced and shaped by the capacity of the river, right? So if at a particular point of time the river can actually capacitate over the old man, so can we say that the river is just the passive object in the sentence? So then what happens? Then how would you kind of perceive river? So would you now like to perceive the river as an object in this statement? Or does the river also has an agency? What do you think? If the river has the power to determine the action, to influence the action, to facilitate the action, then would you like to consider the river as the object, or does the river also become the subject? What is your take?
Ma'am, I think for this problem there should be a notion of syntactic object and semantic object. So those
Okay.
two should be different.
So what are they? Can you define what is syntactic object versus semantic?
Ma'am, actually, what is meaningfully the subject is different, and what is syntactically the subject in this sentence, as far as the rules of grammar is concerned, is the syntactic subject.
All right. So the river becomes syntactic subject in this case.
No, ma'am. It is the meaningful subject.
It is the meaning. So the river.
Yes, ma'am.
So which means semantic.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then you are kind of ascribing some subjective, right, to the river.
Yes.
And this is relational. So you are bringing the aspect of relationality in it, right? Yeah, as per the situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I had learned from you semantic and syntactic subjects. Thank you very much, Snigdha. Now, are there anything else? Is there anything else? Are there other things that you think also can determine this final goal of reaching the destination apart from the man and the river?
Wind, maybe, ma'am.
Okay, Fevin and then Vaishnavi, Fevin, yes?
The boat.
The boat. And Fevin, you said wind?
No, I said the boat.
The boat. Somebody said the wind.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. So explain both of you. Fevin, why did you say that the boat can be the subject?
Yeah, like if the boat malfunctions in between, he won't be able to reach the destination.
Okay, so it's also the boat, of course. Sure. So maybe I would also request a little bit of more elaboration on this. Vaishnavi, why the wind do you think is a subject?
If there is very heavy wind, the person might not actually go in the direction he wanted to, or he can row, like directly move sideways or backwards, or just stay in that position.
Mm-hmm. Right. So like maybe like when he started when he started the journey, or maybe when he was planning for the journey, he had a certain plan. but due to the movement of the wind, maybe when he is performing the function, he may have he due to the movement of the wind, then he becomes bound or compelled to change his decision, right? So the wind then automatically becomes the agent. So because in this case, again, the wind is more capacitated than the person to kind of influence and determine his decision making, right? So it's the wind's decision then, that which direction this boat is taking to reach the destination, right, Vaishnavi? And that is why you are saying that wind has agency.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it is also winds. Like wind is one of the agent. Like
Right. So wind is one of the agents.
Yes, ma'am.
And Febin, like when you were saying boat, so boat is important here because it is ultimately the boat on which the man is there, and what is actually enabling the man to finally reach the destination, right? That is why you want to say that the boat is very also important in the picture, and it is also the subject. So why is the boat the subject? And do you think that the boat is the syntactic or the semantic subject? So Fevin, a little more elaboration on the
Ma'am,
book.
I couldn't actually understand what was that syntactic and semantic. I will try
No,
to learn that.
maybe I'll explain it a bit later. But I'm just I'm joking also. But I'm also, for example, asking you that why do you see the boat as an agent? But Snigdha, for sure, this is also interesting. So. Later, I would also ask you to expand on this different kinds of subjecthood or subject making. Yeah, so Femin, a bit more on boat. Why do you think the boat is an
Yeah, like just like river, like in case of river, if the current increases or if there is some flood or something, he won't be able to reach the destination. It might be caused by other factors, but still the river is doing that. So at the same way, if the boat breaks or something happens to it, he won't be able to reach or maybe he might have to delay his trip.
right, and also like I think like the source of the water and the place where this activities is taking place, all these factors and variables would also be important in terms of like what kind of boat will be required. So the materials of the boat or the shape of the boat would also be determined or should also be determined by the source of water in which the boat is being rowed, and also I mean, the geography of the place, the current in the river, or the type of the water body. All this, I think, should also play an important role uh, in deciding the materials and the shape of the boat and the other parameters involving the boat, right?
Yes, ma'am. According to the picture, it seems like it's a wooden boat.
Yes. So, all right. So, do you think any other thing we are missing here, which should also be given some kind of subjecthood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Tell me, what is it?
Ma'am, actually, the financial condition of the uh, fisherman is the most important subject because that is forcing him to do the hard work, and that is the only thing that is having some agency.
So like his economic, socio-economic situation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That
Okay.
is forcing him to work that hard and uh,
To perform this function.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. So, any other things do you think should be discussed or included which we have not discussed yet? Because the final goal has to be given the most significant weightage, that is reaching the destination. So, any other things or any other thing would actually also determine this reaching the destination. Any other thing do you think can be important? Should be important? Maybe several other things like maybe a whole lot of like other risks are also there in the river which we had not considered yet. So what could be the other risks in the river? So there can be other risks in the river as well.
Some aquatic animal or not possible, but shark or something.
Maybe shark or crocodile or anything else. Huh?
I'm
Prakash?
tied.
Tides, yes. Of course, tides. And tides are also related to, the turbulence or storms that that Aditya was talking about. And what determine, these currents, river currents or tidal currents? The clue I'll give. Achha, Pranav, you try. Otherwise, I'll give a clue.
Sorry, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Huh.
ma'am, gravitational force.
Gravitational force. Okay. So now we have to actually move beyond the planetary ambit to give agency even to beyond planetary forces. So by this, as you have mentioned, gravitational force. So the pull of the moon and the sun, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Cosmic forces. Cosmic forces or also extraplanetary forces, beyond planetary forces, which include gravitational pull from the moon, from the sun. So now you tell me the way we actually what we had learned in our very basic, English classes. Do you think that holds ground? That holds, much ground? So we have absolutely deconstructed, this sentence and this statement to see that how and why this old man is just one of the many variables, one of the many agents to finally, complete the task of reaching the destination. So the man actually is collaborating, or rather all other things are collaborating with each other. If all the different variables are at play, so it is through the interplay of different variables that finally the end task can be performed. Do you agree with me? Do you think that is the case? It is actually through the interplay of all these variables that the final task, the end task, can actually be performed. Am I right? Or do you have reservations? What do you think? What is the most important thing? Do you think in the performance of the end task? What is it through which this end task can actually be met, accomplished, the end goal? What is it then that is determining this final goal, through which the final goal can actually be completed, can be met? If I ask you, like, what is it? In which variable would you like to give the most significant weightage? We have discussed so many things. So how the river would behave, how the boat would behave, and how the, how nature would behave, including winds, gravitational pull, aquatic animals, maybe several other things which right now we can't even see, or we cannot just understand so much with our rational minds. But there may be other things as well, and then that definitely can have some sort of 22 plus. What is that? Collaboration of all agencies. Yes. So collaboration of all agencies and interplay of numerous variables. So then what is the keyword, Ravi? Agency or collaboration?
Ma'am, collaboration.
Collaboration. And why?
Ma'am, because agencies are many agencies, but if some of them collaborate, then then destination can be reached. But collaboration is necessary, at least in between some of the agencies.
Right. So then where should our concentration remain? Our concentration should actually remain on this collaboration. unfortunately, which is often missed by us. We tend to think, and this idea of giving subjecthood, or this idea of ascribing subjecthood to the man, right, is a very anthropocentric way of looking into the world. What do I mean by anthropocentric? Have you heard this word, Anthropocene?
Ma'am, it
Anthropocene?
means human-centered, as anthropology means study of humans. So
Anthropocene?
Means human-centric, anthropocentric.
Okay. Any other addition? Yeah.
Anthropocene is defined as the epoch which is determined by the activities of human upon the earth. So,
So it's a
human
new
have brought
geological
upon.
epoch altogether, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And do you think that it's different from the other or the preceding geological epochs?
Yes.
Yeah, and how?
Since in the other epochs there wasn't an agency such as human beings that have brought upon so much change to the geology and environment of the earth.
So I think we will be actually spending a bit of time on Anthropocene, and I would where I would take up like what Anthropocene is, and why is it a significant and remarkable and very transforming kind of a geological epoch, which is very significantly and dramatically different, radically different from the preceding epoch, which was the Holocene. And according to geologists, the Holocene is actually a more stable period of the Earth system, but Anthropocene, the Earth system is facing lots and lots of disturbances in terms of, supply of fresh water, in terms of pollution, global warming, climate change, changes in the biogeochemical cycles, and so many other things. And a whole lot of like scientific investigations had gone into this, and there are like very eminent groups of like climate scientists who had through their investigations absolutely proven and demonstrated that yes, this is a reality, that we are really in a different geological epoch. So, and this particular term Anthropocene was actually coined by the Nobel laureate Paul Crutzen, and it welcomed like a series of debates and discussions and dialogues among different branches or people like affiliated to different branches of natural scientists, and later like social scientists also started having their arguments on the Anthropocene. So it's a very lively and very vibrant and like a very long discussion on the Anthropocene, which is going on since 2000, because in that year, in 2000, this terminology was coined, the Anthropocene. So we will definitely have a discussion on that, and I will teach or I will discuss about the 9 planetary boundaries, which is a framework to validate that the Anthropocene is real. And like this is a framework and a model which was formulated and developed by the climate scientists who who were at the Stockholm Resilience Center, based at the Stockholm Resilience Center in Sweden. And so we will definitely cover it, because this can be a very important like background understanding which can be important for not only this course but an overall understanding for you, for you to get the contemporary context that we are actually inhabiting. Yes. So coming back to my earlier discussion, like anthropocentric is something which is a very, very old word. Anthropocene is a new coinage, but this too definitely has a link, as Mihir pointed out, that we are in the Anthropocene because we can consider this. It will not be an exaggeration if we consider it consider the Anthropocene as an outcome of our anthropocentric perspectives and hence anthropocentric actions. So what is the root word here? The root word is anthropo. And what does anthropo means? Anthropo means man. Right. So that this kind of a feeling that or this kind of conviction that it is our planet. Our means like planet of the human beings, and so we have the agency to discuss upon or to deal with things, and we are the best species in the world because we have intelligence and we have certain features which unfortunately or fortunately the other species do not have. So that is why we have the agency to determine and to kind of shape the earth system in that way. But unfortunately, this kind of agency has come with whole lot of costs, and costs which we could not also manage to map and figure out before. And when things started getting clear or clearer, that that our way of perceiving the world system, our way of looking into things, and this way of looking into things finally kind of shaping our actions, caused lot of socio-ecological implications on the planet, for the planet. And when these things were getting clearer, but still by then we were already very arrogant, and by then we already entered into our comfort zone, and by then it was really not possible to depart from our like anthropocentric worldview or perspective. So what did we do? So we started designing and coming up with more aggressive technologies to to continue to retain our old perspective, and to continue with our anthropocentric perspectives, actions, and ways of living. So and the way we see the world, the way we understand things, the way we we are exposed to the epistemic how do I say, the epistemic perspective. Epistem means again knowledge. So the way we inculcate knowledge, to a great extent, unfortunately, is very, very, very anthropocentric. So which actually then disables us to not consider and look into the array of variables that are actually present before our naked eye, or not before our naked eye as well. Even like coliform bacteria, algae. So I'll expose you to some very significant examples, empirical examples from ground, from the field. So the field where we work, the field where I work, the field where I am working for the last 15 years maybe. So, and I will show you that how coliform bacteria has more agency over human beings in actually recycling waste, and how that recycling or recovery practices takes care of, or recovery practices take care of livelihoods and survival provisions of more than 2 lakhs people on just the eastern periphery of the city of Kolkata. So, because East Kolkata wetlands is something where I had done my research, and I am still doing my research. I am continuing it. It seems to be an unending research actually. But I did my PhD on that long back, on Kolkata's canal systems and wetlands, and I am now focusing on several other aspects of this, that apart from technological apparatuses, apart from social arrangements that we think are so very important, which are important, there is no denial of the fact that technological apparatuses and social arrangements and knowledge system of people are very important in terms of managing this waste, in terms of transforming waste into wealth. But what about the agencies of coliform bacteria or sunshine or algae, without which this there could not have been transformation in the constituents of BOD or COD, that finally that finally plays such a significant role in the breakdown of the different constituents and particles, and the settling of the sewage into those waste stabilization ponds. The role of duck, the role of duck feed, the role of fish, the role of so many other non-human actors that is there in the story. But unfortunately, we tend to miss them because we are so obsessed with our own agency in the entire scheme of things. So environmental humanities, I think, is a domain that provokes us to really, and that very openly or blurts out loud that this kind of an idea, this kind of a perception or perspective is extremely erroneous, and it's just the manifestation of our foolishness and foolish arrogance. And thus, the core of environmental humanities is, I would like to put like this, which is interspecies intersectionality. So Ravi talked about, collaboration of agencies, and in environmental humanities, this is put like this: interspecies intersectionality. And there are two words and two phrases which I would like you to remember. And these are the two key terms. So one is this interspecies intersectionality. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. And entanglements. Never forget this word, entanglement. What is entanglement? So just you don't need to think about environmental humanities. Just I'm placing this word before you and asking you to to kind of not define but to explain what do you understand by entanglement. What is entanglement? Anyone?
Something like get trapped.
Trapped?
And become interconnected.
Okay, so Roshan, you said trapped. So can you give an example?
Ma'am, sorry, but I think get entangled meant something like get trapped in a net or something like that.
Okay, so you are saying entrapped, right? Getting entrapped.
Yes, ma'am.
Entrapment. Okay. And then someone else said something.
Interdependent.
Interdependence, right? And anything else?
Attachment. Internally connected.
Internally connected. Okay. All right. And anything else?
Attached. Attachment.
Attachment. Okay. What else?
The condition of being deeply involved.
The condition of deeply involved, deeper involvements. Okay. So keep on saying. Unless, so if you have new things to add, just we will continue. And if you think everything is covered, then I'll take it up from there. But all very important, insights. Deeper involvements, attachments, entrapment, interdependence, interrelation. Anything else?
Being connected through a complicated relationship.
Being connected to a complicated relationship. And why do you think it has to be a complicated relationship? Can entanglement not be on a simple relationship?
Ma'am, when I visualize the word entangled, it reminds me of wires or hair that are tangled within each other, and it is
Right.
quite complicated.
Yes, so a web, like you can see a messy, complex web.
Yes, ma'am.
Spiral network, huh? Okay. All right. So, and tell me, like when I, so Ravi talked about a collaboration of all agencies, and then I am saying entanglement. So, do you see a connection between what Ravi said and what is entanglement? Is there a connection between entanglement and collaboration of agencies? So can I again very quickly, can I ask you to do another exercise, a very quick one. So maybe you can take 3-4 minutes and then just write one statement or one sentence on what do you understand by entanglement, and what will be more important. I want you to give an example from anywhere. One example and one-liner explanation. Possible? 5 minutes maybe. Possible? Ready? This is now it's 9:01, maybe 9:05. An explanation and one example. Possible? No?
Ma'am, let us try.
Okay. So hope you are not too tired with the second exercise. Give an
Can you
example.
repeat the exercise once?
Yes, it's very simple. So I am giving you this key term, entanglement, right? So you have to write one sentence, one line. One liner, you have to provide a one liner explanation of what do you understand by entanglement, followed by one example. So maybe someone is asking you, what is an entanglement? And you are explaining it, you have explained it to him or her, and then you are also giving an example. You are giving an example to actually validate your explanation. Getting it? So a one-liner explanation of what do you understand by entanglement, followed by an example. An example, it can be an example from anywhere. So an example to actually then validate your explanation. Do you understand the exercise? Clear, all of you? Hey, say yes or no.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then let's do it. After 3-4 minutes, I'll ask you to share your thing. Do it right now, please. Time has already started. So I can see the explanations now. This is interesting, and like Vaishnav, you are reflecting on an inevitable relationship. Whether we want it, we don't want it, that doesn't matter, but it is just inevitable. So that is true. This is something also quite strong and important, inevitability of our relationship. But I don't understand the example very well. So, can you explain this earphone example?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't think of like inevitable example in normal real life except the human and environment
No, but that's
connectivity.
fine. But yeah, but just make
So
me understand.
yeah, so I just thought of a normal real life daily example that there is earphones wires, right, ma'am? There are two wires for each ear, so they get entangled with each other and they form a knots, many knots, multiple knots. So it
Right,
is
right,
hard to
right.
remove. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I think it also relates to resonates with Mihir's explanation that that they are bound in such a way that a change in one of them will affect the entire system. Same thing happens with our earphone. So if one stops functioning, or if we even don't plug in one earphone and just plug the other one, so I think we will not get the entire rhythm or the music, right?
Right, ma'am.
Yes. So two or more objects, yes, are entangled if they are interdependent. Property, food chain, each creature is dependent. Yes. Um, right. So more or less, all of us, we are on the same plane. Interconnection. Yes, change can affect the entire system. Trade, twist, mass get entrapped. Leaf, engage, entangled in a fuzzy wave. How, Akshat? Again, can you explain the example? Akshat, the example of the leaf. Emotional entanglement. Yes. Through a complicated relationship, it took a long time. Right, right. All right. So yes. So I think these are very good examples and great explanations. Yeah. And inevitability is something which is also very important. And this all these explanations that you're giving about about love and emotions and our emotional entanglement and entrapment rather with each other, that even after it's not there, but still we feel a deeper connection, and still we feel that we are deeply attached to each other. And why do we feel like that? Because there is somewhere a deeper connection, and there is somewhere an inevitability of the relationship, or whatever that that is beyond our quantitative scientific calculation also. Maybe if we're stuck in a cobweb or something, or yeah, nature and human. Okay. Yes. So thank you very much. And I once I just came across, and unfortunately after that I could not find that example at all. So there was a book, and then I tried to find that book, but I couldn't get the book because it was the book was a forthcoming one, but unfortunately it had not been published till date. And I came across this example in 2020, and then I unfortunately couldn't manage to find that book, the advertisement for the book at all. So there was a very interesting metaphor on entanglement, and this was the metaphor was the spider web. And in Buddhist in Buddhist belief, in Buddhist belief system, the spider web is considered to be very sacred, because of the entanglement, or the entanglement scene and scenario. It is actually able to kind of explain. Yeah. Right. So entanglement is the key word, and entanglement is something on which environmental humanities actually puts lot of acreage or weightage, and it asks us, it provokes us
to and instructs us for sure to actually mm, to finally it asks us to craft the departure in our mental space, that is our cognitive domain, to focus more on entanglement, because that is the inevitable reality, than the agency of anyone, anyone animate entity on planet earth, most importantly human beings. And it says and it shows that if we can kind of craft this transformation in our mental space, in our mindset, then only we will start perceiving things and the world system in a different way, and that will get reflected in our actions. So then the way we will start designing things will not be against nature, but we will then be actually dancing with the moods of the river rather than damming the river to control it and to tame it, because we don't like floods. So we will kind of cover a number of examples where we will see that how this kind of an anthropocentric worldview has actually led to a whole lot of problems, and finally had led to the usherance of the Anthropocene, which is quite challenging, which is quite problematic, and all of us are fighting the Anthropocene, and lots of funds and money, several other things are just getting invested to deal with the Anthropocene, and unfortunately with whole lot of unmanageable cyclical reciprocal repercussions and implications. And this was also very evident in the last climate change meet, which is called COP 20, which was like COP 26, Conference of Parties meet that took place in Glasgow. I don't know whether you are aware of COP 26 or not, but yeah, COP 26 is one of the Conference of Parties, the last one, the latest one, which took place in UK, in Glasgow. Sorry, I think it's like Scotland. No, UK. Yeah, UK city. It's Glasgow, and more than 3,000 people met there. Like in every climate change conference of parties, the numbers are just huge, because like the bureaucrats, the technocrats, so policymakers and activists and scholars and experts, everyone just come and assemble, discuss things. And so this is going on still at first time when they met in Kyoto, and the Kyoto Protocol was signed in 1997, and the idea was to cut off emission by 5.7%, to not so that the temperature does not increase, because the prediction was that by 2030 that there would be an increase in temperature by 2 degrees. So in order to control that, in 1997 all the policymakers met for the first time in Japan, in Kyoto, and they signed the Kyoto Protocol. And unfortunately the level that was decided upon, the level in emission reduction, that we have never been able to meet that. On the other hand, our emission rates actually or the emission emission kept on intensifying, kept on increasing, and lots of politics in terms of allocation of carbon quotas and whatnot, zero emission, all these so-called quote unquote very smartly packaged quote unquote eco-friendly techniques or designs. Unfortunately they are not eco-friendly at all, but they are extreme green washes. So if you take a look into these designs, you will see that these are actually capitalist design to intensify and aggravate emission at the end of the day. And zero emission is such a farce, because as per the third law of thermodynamics, there cannot be anything there cannot be any phenomena in which there would be no emission. This kind of an idea that a phenomena or without emission is not at all possible. So there would be some sort of emission. So everything, every object, every property would at the end of the day emit something. So this concept of zero emission is again is an eyewash. And these are, unfortunately, these are sophisticated ways through which common people and citizens, they are just made fools, and they think that they are actually buying eco-friendly products, they're eating eco-friendly things, and they are leading eco-friendly lives, which is not the reality, unfortunately. So and that is why we need to address problems in a different way, because we need to have a very clear cut, thorough, multi-layered understanding of problems, not the way through which we are shown the challenges, or we are placed with these challenges in front of us. But we need a different kind of a seeing and an understanding and an awareness altogether. And this is so very important for all of you, for me, or myself, but mainly you guys, because at the end of the day, you are engineers, you will be natural scientists, to finally come up with all these hands-on practices, right? So you need to have a more clearer and a very detailed and a robust perceptions of how things are. So without knowing these multi-layered aspects of of how a thing functions, or what are the different problems, and without if you don't spend time in unraveling or exploring the multi-layeredness of a situation or a problem, you will not be able to come up with comprehensive, inclusive designs. And if you do that, so if your design is not incomprehensive, if your design is non-inclusive, then at the end of the day, maybe your solution strategy or your design will work for 5 years, or at best 6 years, 7 years, 10 years at best. But after that, the problem will again recur, because you had not properly looked into the various facets of the challenge or the problem. You are just provided very quick solution, quick fixes to it, and you have not considered problems as wicked problems. This is again quote unquote wicked problems. This is something which is actually used in planning discourses. But when is a problem a wicked problem? When a problem has different components attached to it, it is not a linear problem, but it is a problem where the problem has to be seen as a mass of tangled components, and you really don't know which thread to pull first. So it's a mass of thread, it's a mass of again tangled components and layers, and it is so much entrapped, this whole thing, it's so messy that you really don't know which thread you need to pull first to solve the crisis or the problem. And if you just see a problem only by its surface value, and immediately very quickly try to provide solution to that, you will be able to address it at the surface level, but you will not, as you had not addressed it at the subsurface level. So within the next 5 years, the problem will again recur. And when the problem recurs, you will see that your design is not functioning anymore. Rather, you will then see and observe that the kind of design that time that you came up with, maybe that has actually aggravated, that has actually increased the problem, because you did not map the problem, you did not you did not deploy a very strong or a very in-depth and robust mapping exercise. You did not do a proper situational analysis. You did not do a very appropriate, systematic, time consuming mapping exercise. And that is why your engineering solution is not working anymore. And also, unfortunately, if you don't spend time on the context, because every context will have its own story, the kind of solutions that will work in a particular place, in a particular geography, in a particular locality, with particular groups of people, may not work in other contexts. Maybe the geography can also be a bit similar, but the cultural practices, the belief systems, the socio-ecological or the socio-economic conditions are different. So one needs to, a good engineer, a good scientist needs to take care of all these different variables, all these different factors when he or she is actually studying a problem. So and that is why also it remains important for all of us to start working with people coming from other disciplines, people affiliated to other domains. So the transdisciplinary knowledge is also very, very important, because there is no doubt about the fact that with our own singular discipline or domain, we will not be able to understand, forget about giving solutions, but we will not be able to understand problems in its most comprehensive manner. And if you don't understand problems, because that is where we need to spend a lot of time to unravel, as I mentioned, to unravel and unfold the multi-layeredness of a problem. And in this course, through multiple examples, I will try to place before you how different problems, how pollution in a particular lake, how lack of fresh water supply in a particular region, how a whole lot of heat, or the heat island phenomena in cities like Delhi. These are problems, these are challenges that are extremely multi-layered, and that should be understood as wicked problems. And if you don't understand that very many components that actually that are shaping, or that have shaped this challenge, you will not be able to reach the subsurface level to come up with your solution strategy, solution design, for that matter. And if you don't come up with that design, then your design would not be sustainable and resilient. It would not last for long, and it will not be able to do benefit to majority section of the society. So in this course, we are going to actually always launch or deploy some kind of what I say, maybe desiccation exercise, where we would just the dissection exercise, where we would just keep dissecting problems unless we reach its core. That yes, this is a problem. So for example, I'll just give a very quick example maybe. So so for example, let us think of a particular village, a small village, where there are maybe 50 households, right? So there are 50 households, and there is a village, and that village suffers, or I will give a more apt example, maybe a more contemporary one. So we get to hear so much of news about farmer suicides in Maharashtra, right? Especially regions like Vidarbha and all. So every year there is a looming crisis of droughts and things like that, and then it impacts upon agricultural productivity, and then the farmers they unfortunately cannot pay back to the moneylenders, and then numerous loss of lives, because the farmer they remain unable to solve their crisis, and a number of farmers have actually committed, they are still committing like kind of suicides for the last 1 or 1.5 decade or so. Right. So what do you think? This problem in parts of Maharashtra, rural Maharashtra, what do you think? This is the problem of of course the problem is the problem of water. So less water, lack of water for agricultural needs, lack of water for irrigation. So how would you explain it? So what do you think is the crux of the problem? So if you get to know about this crisis, I'm sure you had heard about this crisis, you had read newspapers, or you had read you have come across online news and these discussions about farmer suicides in mainly in Maharashtra, but other parts of India as well. But Maharashtra, it is so evident that this has become common every year. So in Delhi, there is this problem of air pollution with what is that called? Stubble burning, right? So in these areas of Punjab and Delhi, so how Delhi every year during October, November, and I have myself faced it once in 2019. So every year, this problem of stubble burning, and on the other hand, in Maharashtra, every year this farmer suicides because decreasing productivity levels, and drought, etc. So what is the problem? So why does the farmer commit suicide? Why the agricultural levels are not met? The agricultural productivity levels are not met. So how do you perceive the problem as challenges? Huh? Who would like to attempt?
I think lack of education is a big problem because the farmers, they do not come to know if they are getting swindled by money lenders, or they also do not know the best ways to increase their yields. So they stick to old methods, but then they get bankrupt in the end.
Okay, so you are saying that the problem then lies in the so how would you like conceptualize it? Lack of modern technology.
So, ma'am, I think
Technology is there, but the farmers are not probably not well aware of the technologies. So
Okay, so the non-inclination to apply modern technology.
yes, ma'am. One of yes, that
I think, ma'am, according to my point of view, that is not the problem. Farmers are well aware of technologies. They are in today's time they are very well educated, but the system in which they are is really biased. In like in whole world, the farmers are only who do not decide their own product's price.
Mm-hmm.
So these kind of things are the reason why they are making suicide.
So there's
And
the clash between this what is actually required and the way market prices are set, right?
yeah, like if you are saying in Maharashtra, then Maharashtra, the market is according like that Shirdi centric. Like I don't know what is called Shirdi in English.
What?
In Maharashtra,
Uh-huh.
there, what can you say the Shirdi like
Shirdi?
the main product?
Okay.
So his market is very low price. That's and um, government are making some pressure or something like that to farmers. So they must have to produce that sugar cane
Yes. Cash
and
crop. Switching to cash crops.
crash
Cash crops.
cash crops. Okay, then they must have to produce the cash crops.
Mhm.
But if you will produce some product in the same land, then day by day the productivity of the land will decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why farmers are not getting good revenue from the cash crops.
Right.
Because of that they are making suicide.
So disrupted soil fertility.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, one thing can be there that they are not means adopting a long-term plan and not looking for a sustainable solution. In the short term, they are growing crops which will give them means more money sort of and deplete the land, and they're using more fertilizers. But in the subsequent years, what happened? Excess use of fertilizers depletes the land quality and means
Right.
the food production decreases year by year, giving to less profits.
Oh, ma'am,
So
just
yes,
to
short
just
term
to add,
gains. Yeah,
and
sorry.
also, ma'am. Oh, okay.
Sorry, no,
Yeah,
please continue.
yeah, ma'am. Just to add 2 cents, what I think is that since we already know there's not a lot of rain and groundwater has been depleted, that means to have an equal level of productivity, they have to like use fertilizers and all that stuff. And that is like what Abhijit said, like has caused a lot of soil fertility. Apart from this, there's like no safety net, as in if the crop fails, they don't have any other option to go to. So like
Right.
what do you call it? Like they don't have like the diversification of
Right.
job profiles.
And alternative livelihood options maybe, and
Yes, ma'am.
and also crop diversifications, for example. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So these are all pertinent points, and yes, they are all very relevant in terms of explaining this farmer. Just 1 second. Hello. Yes. So so and also like one major cause is water. So and the argument is that that water sources have depleted, most importantly groundwater, which is a major source of water for irrigation. The groundwater level has depleted so much that that is also affecting this crop productivity. So in this case, when this statement is like this, that the groundwater sources have depleted, the groundwater levels have come down so badly, that is why the farmers are not being able to get adequate water to irrigate their soil, to irrigate the soil, right? So when we say like this, that this kind of a statement, that groundwater depletion, level of groundwater coming down, and that is why like inadequacy, shortage, water shortage to irrigate the land. So what is this problem? So how this problem can be framed? So this is generally then availability of resource, right? Availability, that that we need this much of resource and a natural resource, and unfortunately this much of natural resource we are not being able to get and access. Why we are not being able to access this much of resource? Why is the problem in terms of availability? So how would you explain this? How is this
It's population rise.
huh?
Population rise.
Rise in population, and what Sugandh, you wanted to say something?
It's basically like tragedy of commons. Like there is resource, everybody can like take out water, and you want to take out as much water as possible, because if you don't, other people are going to use that resource before you. So that just means that everybody wants to just take out as much water as possible, and just
Right.
that leads to this rise of everybody taking out as much as possible.
Right. So this is then like infinite use of our finite resources. Resources are finite, but unfortunately, the way we are extracting it, we are doing it in an infinite manner. So this is the problem, can be put in terms of like infinite use of finite resources, right? So, and the demographic rise or increase and several other things can actually also be projected to be the cause of this kind of an imbalance in the earth system. So, and we can see that the way the problem is framed is actually in terms of availability. So rising rising feeding mouths, and rising pressure on land due to like increase in population, right? So what do you think? Do you think that this availability can be seen as the crux of resource scarcity or resource crunch or resource problem? Do you think that resource availability should be seen or understood as the crux, that is, as the most significant thing, as the crux of the challenge or the problem, as the crux of ecological problems or challenges? Should availability be understood or seen as the crux of ecological crisis that we are facing today?
Ma'am, accessibility is also one thing. Like it might not be the case that due to certain geographical factors, a particular resource might not be present at a means it is already in lower quantity at a particular place. So
Mhm.
accessibility should also be a thing which we need to take care of.
Yes, and also this is again, when you are saying this, you are also like hinting at availability, Aditya, because you are saying that different regions having their own resource base, and that also determines availability, right? So local geographies.
Yes, like let us say Rajasthan is a particularly, it has some areas have shortage of water,
Right.
but some near there might be other states which might have additional sources. So uh, we need to develop mechanism like so that the states having surplus can provide benefit to the state having scarcity.
Okay, yes. So the thing is that still, the problem is the problem of availability, and there are multiple reasons why this resource crunch is taking place. If we are trying to look into it from the availability dimension. Now, I would like to mention about very powerful media journalist, and he was the editor of the Hindu newspaper, and he's a fiery orator, And I once came across his very strong write-up where he pointed out, and that write-up was in the context of this droughts in Maharashtra and farmer suicides. And he pointed out, so the discussion was on water, and he said, and it came as such a kind of a strong argument. And when he said that water scarcity, again I'm saying that it is in terms of that context is Maharashtra. So he said that water scarcity is manufactured. What does this mean? Scarcity is manufactured. How can scarcity be manufactured? Scarcity is always the way we had learned in our the way we learn things, the way we learn in our textbooks or in several other like common discussions. It is always that that scarcity is real. It is the problem of availability.
Manufactured means resources are available, but they are not managed well. So artificially generated scarcities are observed.
Right. So the example that he gave. Sahu?
Like black market.
Like black market, and the very simple example he gave was that so I think he was talking about, I'll just either 2013 or 15 the piece came out, and he just pointed out that and gave the figure, they gave the numbers, exact numbers, saying that when farmers were committing suicide due to lack of groundwater, which actually with actually depleted levels, but the amount of water that actually went to wash the IPL grounds. So he gave these two examples showing that how scarcity is actually manufactured. So it is not the question of availability. It is also the question of access. And when I say access, it is the question of how resource is distributed. Who gets what? In terms of allocation. Who decides who will get what? Is this distribution or is this distribution mechanism just ethical? So there is a whole lot of maldistribution. And who decides? Who are the people who takes this decision? That the amount, how much water should actually be watering the IPL grounds, where farmers were committing suicide on the other hand because out of lack of water. So what kind of forces, what kind of factors actually enable this kind of a decision making? Who are the key players who make these choices, that whether water would be the water problem or the water crisis or the scarcity? Should the statecraft try to manage it for the farmers because the case was so grave, the case became so grave? But on the other hand, like a lot of hue and cry on IPL and several others. So this is just an example. There are numerous other examples, and which will show that how resource distribution is so very problematic. And you will always see that who are at the fag end of this distribution mechanism. Who are the people who are at the fag end of this distribution mechanism? Who are the people who suffers from the least or sometimes no access to ecological resource? Who are the people? Which section of society?
The like what can I say, higher class, or maybe the people below poverty.
Who get the least resources, who are allocated with less resources, least
The
Financially
people
lower
the people
Lower,
with financial literacy. Yeah.
yes,
The
so the
people who do not
marginalized.
have connections.
So the marginalized people, right? So marginalized people, the vulnerable sections, the poor people, and the reason why the poverty trap and the poverty loop actually continues. So it is not ecology which has to be blamed, that why the ecology produces so less, why the ecological resource base is so less. It is the way the distribution mechanism is actually designed. And we have to have a very thorough economic understanding of things at work. I think Snigdho, he was continuously, trying to make this point: the socio-economic background, financial context. All these things are so very important. You cannot understand ecological crisis. You cannot understand ecological problems or challenges if you don't apply the political economic lens to it. So natural problems are not natural inherently. Natural problems are not inherently natural. Environmental problems are not inherently environmental. There are other factors. There are other variables like politics, like economy, like law and order, like religion, like caste, like so many, gender. All these things, all these variables are so very important in shaping either ecological crisis or ecological prosperity or, the entire ecology for that matter. So again, environmental humanities, I would frame it like this, that in environmental humanities, you get the chance to understand what is not environment in environment, or what is more appropriately, what is not natural in nature. What is not natural in nature? That is something that environmental humanities expose you to, because in other courses or in other domains that discuss ecology, that discuss environment, for example, ecological sciences, environmental sciences, if you see those, if you go through the textbooks, if you go through the articles or chapters which are part of environmental sciences, you will see they are more bothered and concerned only with availability like parameter. They unfortunately they don't provide, or they don't come up with nuanced analysis on where things are wrong and why and how things are wrong. What is actually happening? What are the multiple factors, multiple reasons, multiple entangled reasons that actually shape resource prices? And why do we need to take account of social, religious, cultural, political, economic factors when we are actually discussing environment? So environment is not inseparable from society. So that is why this framework of coupled socio-ecological interactions is so important in environmental humanities. And if you see the course structure, you will see that there is a whole lot of time would be spent on explaining the various frameworks, placing the various frameworks before you. And one of these major frameworks is SES, which is socio-ecological system, and where you will get to know and understand that ecology is not separate from society, society is not separate from ecology, and there are plenty of examples to show how society and ecology are absolutely entangled, and why a mode of production, the mode of production analysis, why the political economic lens of analysis will be important, is absolutely pertinent for all of us to understand ecological crisis. And as we unfortunately most of the times tend not to consider or not to apply this political economic lens or perspective, and just try to understand ecological problems by looking into the physical availability or the material availability of resource. And that is why again our design our design remains incomplete and incomprehensive for that matter. So environmental humanities is like a very significant domain from that perspective, which would offer you sophisticated lenses to understand what is not natural in nature. What is not natural in nature? Floods, recurrent floods, incurrent floods occurring in parts of India, Bihar, Assam, cities like Chennai. So do you think that this should be considered as natural phenomena? Do you think the crisis is natural? The floods are what is the definition of floods? If you see any of your natural sciences books, you will see that floods floods are how are they defined? How are they conceptualized? So floods are conceptualized as natural crisis. Yes or no? So, but do you think that floods are natural crisis? Do you think cyclones are natural crisis? They're only results of or outcomes of unruliness of nature. Why sometimes or most of the times? And now in the Anthropocene, I can say every time. Why does nature become unruly? What is the reason behind unruliness? Again, if we use unruliness at all, because I mean maybe nature is behaving perfectly well, and nature is actually following its own pattern, but we are considering it to be unruly because it is affecting our political economic interest in design. So what do you think? Do you think that natural crisis is or natural crises are absolutely natural, or they are also manufactured? And how political aspirations, how capitalist economic needs play a very important role in aggravating this crisis, in causing this crisis and also aggravating it. And that is why when we have to address the problem, we have to address its root. Otherwise, the problem will again recur. So you have to address the cause. If you just keep addressing the outcome, then you are nowhere. And then again, we see that every year, each year. So in 2019, there was a flood. 2020 again floods, cyclones. Every year, two, three cyclones sometimes now in the Sundarbans. People, households getting ravaged. In Assam, outcomes of multi-purpose river valley development projects, outcomes of big infrastructure. Now the question is very simple: then should we not implement these big infrastructures? Should we really follow the quote unquote organic deep ecological path? No, we don't need to take any extreme position, but we need to understand how the economic system to a great extent is highly problematic in terms of decision making, which unfortunately only caters to a very small portion of the society. And unfortunately, the large chunk of the society, which this particular capitalist economic system or economic mode of production does not cater to, deliberately does not cater to, they are unfortunately exposed to the ecological crisis, whether it is pollution in cities, whether it is floods in coastal regions, whether it is drought in arid areas. Unfortunately, these marginalized people who are not catered by the capitalist economic system, the brunt of burden falls on them. So the entire ecological configuration dominated by humankind is so distorted. So what do we need to address? We need to address these distortions. How do we address these distortions? We need to first understand the distortions. We first need to understand the causes, the reasons behind every flood in a particular region. Is it natural? Is it artificial? Is it manufactured? Why is it manufactured? How is it manufactured? Who are the people? Who are the sections of society for whom this arrangement, technological apparatuses, thus these kind of social arrangements remain beneficial? And who are the people? Who are the losers? Who are the gainers, and who are the losers? Who are the beneficiaries? Who are the non-beneficiaries against each and every project that you actually implement in a particular region? Why a project gets a green signal and an approval at the cost of others? Who takes the final decision? What are the various factors that actually shape these decisions? This is something which you will actually learn in another framework, which is a fascinating one, and this is called political ecology. Ecology is not separate from politics. How politics determine ecological allocations and reconfigurations with obvious repercussions on society and back to ecology. So it actually operates in a cyclical mode. How society and nature shape each other, shape and reshape. How nature and society shape and reshape each other across space and time. So these are the various things that environmental humanities would actually be offering a different lens altogether, a different perspective, different dimension angle through which you will be able to perceive problems, and the more weightage would be given on understanding, collectively understanding complex problems and complex systems, and if this understanding is possible in the best possible manner, as much as things can be done, then only we will be able to address these problems towards more sustainable, just, inclusive, and resilient solutions. So this is the purpose of the course, right? So just 5-6 minutes more left with us. Any question, anything? You get an overview? Is the overview?
Yes, ma'am. Just want to clear that. Are you suggesting that some disasters like floods and cyclones, they may have causes that are not entirely natural?
Right. Yes.
Okay, and you'll elaborate on these in coming lectures?
Absolutely. I will definitely, I would follow the case study based approach, because
Okay, ma'am.
if I take up case studies, then you will be able to understand what is actually happening. So then I'll be able to give describe the whole situation before you.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
also
Thank you.
history is very important, right, Pranav? So I'll explain that how before the coming of the, for example, India is such an important example. Like if you see like what happened in her forestry, what happened in water management. So you can see that after the coming of the British, the colonial period can actually be considered as a departure or watershed from where the problems actually, or the crisis started. So, and how would you like to see colonialism? Colonialism is just one of the outcomes of the global capitalist system, right? And how it absolutely kind of cornered all other traditional knowledge systems and traditional practices, traditional ecological practices performed by many farmers, fishers, and which to a great extent, I am not romanticize them, but to a great extent ensured a more organic socio-ecological connect. Entanglement was ensured because entanglement was there as an inevitable reality, and entanglement was also revered at. We did not work against this like the forces of entanglement. Unfortunately, now we are working against forces of entanglement, and that is why disruptions are taking place in most of the cases. But again, the picture is not so linear, and you will see why. That is why and how case study based approach will be so very important, because what is happening somewhere, this maybe the context remains same for another geography, but there may be 2-3 different kind of variables and the entire scenario changes. So that is why we would need a case study based approach through examples, through very significant real life, real scenario examples and case studies. We'll be able to see, or we will be able to address this socio-ecological interconnections and dialectics. Getting it, Pranav?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So any more question now? Anything, any last thing you want to ask? You have an understanding, a better understanding, a little better understanding now, because final understanding will only happen, will only start to happen at the end of the course, because this is subjective. So, but any query, any concern do you have? Would you like to place any concern? Anything you are worried about after these 2 hours of class today? Anything, don't hesitate to ask any question. No problem at all. Any final question? Any final cause of concern? Yes.
Ma'am, like all the classes, there will be no like a screen sharing sort of thing because, or some material sort of thing
Of course.
because what will happen is that, let us say, after 10 or 15 days, it will be difficult to recall what was discussed.
Absolutely. So of course we'll have like mechanisms to not enable you to forget, because the whole idea is that it should percolate deep down, deep down your mind, and it has to shape all of us as also human beings and the call we take. So there will be lots of reading materials and screen sharing and PPTs and those things that I mean those mechanisms that are otherwise followed in all the courses. Yeah, of course that will be there. And so may I request any two of you to compile the class highlights of today? Who would like to volunteer quickly?
I can do it.
Pranav
Ma'am,
and
I can also do it.
Roshan. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So Roshan and Pranav, do you need a template, or you can come up with something, and I can see whether that can be a template itself or not? Maybe
Ma'am, I have taken
and
down
this is reviewed by
whatever
you.
messages you have written here. So
Okay, and Pranav.
elaborating that.
Okay, thanks, Roshan. Pranav.
Yes, ma'am, I'll make it today itself because the concepts are fresh in my mind. So
Very good. So both of you have to also collaborate with each other. Possible?
yes, ma'am,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
bring Roshan.
Okay, very good. So so once you do that, just send it to me first. You can send it to the Environmental Humanities email ID, copying me, and I will take a quick look. Maybe if needed, I will ask you to modify things, immediate quick modifications. It will not be anything very elaborate. I'll just quickly ask you to maybe modify 1 or 2 points if needed at all, or otherwise, they remain absolutely fine, the points. So I'll just take a look, and then once I take a look, then I will ask you, or maybe I myself will upload it in the class highlights folder. Will that be fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So that anyone can recall. Aditya, is this fine for today?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so anyone can recall it, and anyone can just go into that document before joining the next class on Monday. All right. So Roshan and Pranav, it will be really good if you can send me the class highlights for today by a day or two. That should be fine.
Yes, ma'am.
But by Thursday possible? Thursday night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll meet you all on Monday, next Monday. Sorry, yes, next Monday at 11 a.m. All right?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.